Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Secret, and I'm the Vice President of Global Product Marketing at Outbrain. And I'm thrilled to be here today to introduce the Advertising Club of New York's next session, which is Redefining Bravery. I think we can all agree that when we think about bravery in advertising, we know that brands really need to move beyond the status quo and think about supporting the important conversations that can truly benefit from their reach. At Outbrain, we're very focused on delivering meaningful audience engagement and attention around those conversations. In particular, we partner with the world's leading publishers to really invigorate independent journalism and help brands redefine brave approaches to advertising. So what we can't do is create those very high attention moments. We have to rely on the brands to do that, and they are very expert at creating those high attention messages. With that, we'd love to introduce our four speakers to the stage to share how redefining bravery has enabled them to move beyond the status quo and create very brave approaches to advertising. So with that, please join me in welcoming Soyoung Kang, Chief Marketing Officer, EOS Products. Ali Rez, Chief Creative Officer at Impact BBDO. Sophie Kelley, SVP of Marketing at Diageo. And Tiff Rolfe, Global Chief Creative Officer at RGA. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. We talk a lot about bravery in our business. We probably even heard some of those conversations. I just want to point out there's a lot of levels of bravery, I think, in the context of everything happening in the world right now. It's important to point that out. And I just want to define it a little bit. Like, what do we mean by that when we talk about bravery in advertising and in ideas? First, it's not fearlessness. Someone mentioned to me earlier that they were like, "You're fearless," and I'm like, fearless is not bravery. I am afraid all of the time. To me, it's about choosing actually to face those fears, choosing to face uncertainty even, to be vulnerable. And there's inherent risk in that choice, right? So when it comes to brave ideas in our business, I think that inherent risk, and that's what I think a lot of us are facing, it could be the risk of a reputation of a marketing executive that they're working with. It could be loss of customers because you're standing on one side. But yet often I think when we look at what we think are the best creative ideas, the one we admire, they have bravery to them. They have risk at them. And I think it's really imperative for brands today, for agencies and clients working together to stand out and make impact. And the hope is that risk pays off, right? That there'll be greater outcomes rather than doing what's safe and expected. And we see brands taking risks in disruptive ways. We'll hear about cooches a little bit, which
yes,
is
you will.
Not all bravery is as fun as that. We'll talk about ways that clients are showcasing their product that might be more disruptive, unexpected, maybe even unfavoring. We see also brands standing up for their community of customers, and we've worked and been able to work with amazing clients like Nike and Sephora who've done that, and we'll hear more about that from these folks here today. Willing to stand behind a community even amidst controversy. And I think we're also seeing that more brave ideas today are rooted in a brand's purpose. So these ideas become really evidence of their values. They help them connect with customers in more meaningful ways. And it's actually, I think, important to connect with customers in that, because even the majority of customers today, I think 64%, believe that brands should stand for something even if they don't agree with that stance. So there's actually risk if you don't take risks. And bravery doesn't just mean you do those ideas and kind of maybe decide you weren't sure about them. It's actually committing to those and standing behind those decisions even if they get tough, right? And I think we've seen some great examples of bravery, and we'll hopefully hear a couple of those today. But we've also seen that the pressure can be so strong that brands collapse under that pressure, and how we as partners to brands, agencies, clients, with our customers, how do we get behind some of those decisions, make sure they're the right decisions? Because bravery is also not putting yourself into a needlessly dangerous situation either, right? Like walking into traffic isn't necessarily bravery. So it's important, I think, to know where the line is between bravery and dangerous risk. In our business, I think it's about understanding what's authentic for a brand, what are the rules of the category or the community before you start to subvert them. So we'll hear a couple of stories about bravery, how they can change the course of a career, how they can help you get to great work, personal stories of being bravery. Sometimes you don't necessarily choose, but you have to confront those things and make the choice to confront them. And I've had many. I was going to share a personal example, and then I'll open it up. I've had some different examples in my life, both professionally, where I've been able to be brave with clients and had brave, amazing clients, but also I think personally. And I was going to show a personal example of bravery that I think really helped me get to where I am in my career. And I think it's interesting because it is in the context of doing a talk in front of a lot of people. I have gotten really bad stage fright when I talk in front of large crowds. This actually came up in high school in my senior play. I had a really great part. I walked out on stage and I froze for 2 minutes. And my mom still tells the story to my friends at dinner and Thanksgiving. And I stood there, my heart racing, silent for 2 minutes, and I couldn't speak. And I didn't I didn't have to deal with that for many years until maybe 12 years ago, early on in my career. I had the opportunity to be on a really large stage, around 2,000 people, an industry event. So this clip is me doing a presentation in front of 2,000 people. And basically, I am in the middle of the talk, and I stop, and I no longer can actually talk. I can't think of the words. I stare off into the crowd. Relationships with women. No. Women. I stand there and I actually can't even think of the words. And the hilarious thing is my presentation is "Women are funny." And I told everyone that I was about to pass out, and everyone laughed, which was true that I was very funny, but I was not meaning to be funny in that moment. So I walked off stage, and I didn't finish my presentation, and that was the beginning of my career, and I pretty much thought it was going to be the end of my career. And a few months later, I got an email, and that's just what the result of this tweet is. I didn't know. Does anyone know Cindy Gallop?
Yeah.
We know she's very vocal and outspoken about things, and I guess they were having a hard time finding speakers for the 4A's Create Tech conference. And I got an email, and this was just a few months after I completely failed at my talk. Luckily, she hadn't seen that, so she wrote me an email and said, hey, it read like an Alice in Wonderland, eat me, drink me sort of email. And I said, hi, I'm Cindy Gallop. 4A's need speakers, and they can't get any women, so read this. And it was a tweet from Nancy Hill saying that they couldn't get any women to speak at the Create Tech conference. It said, post this, and she wrote a tweet for me to post. And then she said, and do it, and that was it. And so I wrote this post on the left. This was in 2012. Nancy Hill and the 4A's, I would love to speak at the Create Tech 2012. I can also get other brilliant tech women like Angel and Courtney Bolton. So I put myself out there again, and I said yes. And then I promoted the speech, and I got up on stage. I trusted her. I trusted that I was going to be okay, and I did it. And I didn't pass out in that instance. But I did another talk when I was pregnant, and that added a whole other situation, and I started to feel really nauseous on stage again in front of about 1,000 people. And I got up, I walked off stage, I threw up behind the stage, just back here, and I came back out, and I told everyone I had morning sickness, and just kept going. And I think, for me, I don't know if I hadn't faced that fear if I would be doing what I'm doing now. Now, I think we also, in the context of mental health, we have to know when we need to call brakes on things and realize what's a dangerous risk or not, and what's actually a risk that's worth it. And I have to say that every time I do now, like twice a year, 500 people, 1,000 people talks, I always feel like I'm going to throw up. But I always am glad I did it. I never regret it. And I think that's just to say that, like, you know, bravery, you have to commit to those things, right? You have to face those fears if you are going to get past them, to have the upside of that. You know, I have a lot of people come up to me and assume I'm really comfortable talking on stage. And so it's important, I think, to share that. It's also important, the point of trusting other people too. And I think as partners with agencies, with customers, that you have to trust that other people can help you get there and believe in it. I needed a Cindy Gallop in that moment to believe in me. And I think it's also that you have to get comfortable with feeling like you're going to throw up. You know, the really good ideas. And I've, you know, had the benefit of working on some ideas where you've had to be brave and you've had to go, is this idea that we're taking a risk on with our clients, with our agency, with our teams? If it doesn't make you feel a little nauseous, you're probably not quite there yet. But is it going to be the thing, you know, that also you do together and it's worth it? And I think that's something that, you know, we have to kind of get comfortable with. And so I want to pass it on now. I think all of these folks probably have had the nauseous feeling. They might not have actually thrown up backstage, but want to hear about, you know, how you've, I guess, faced kind of some of those fears in different ways, whether it be through the work or through your career, and pass the baton.
I think being brave, or bravery, is a muscle. It's a behavior that we have to get used to exercising. And I think, and that we have to get confidence around, right? Because it's easy to point to people who have done exceptionally brave things. It's a lot harder to go on the journey to being brave. And to Tiff's point, it is kind of uncomfortable. But let's just think about it. For me, bravery is about sitting in the middle of choices that are difficult and tough, and standing in the future and saying, I'm going to work out what the right thing to do is, or what I should do, right? Through the support of others. So I think you talked about it, the support of others as well. The other thing I'd say is that, you know, we do it every day. How many of you have been asked for a point of view by a very senior stakeholder and you haven't had time to run back to your desk and get the data to prove your point of view out, but you've just said it anyway? You're being brave. Bravery is like anything else. Be prepared, map it out, get a vision, understand the to's and fro's, get people on board with what you're doing, and understand the business outcome you can get out of it. And then you'll get more people to go on the journey and support you.
Last year, EOS, where I am CMO, was honored with a Brave Brands Award by the Andes, and that was really based on some great work. Did that EOS shave cream was the secret to how she, quote, blesses her fucking cooch. And so we took those words, and it goes into like long detail, lots of directions, hand gestures, and things like that. And we took those exact words, slapped it on our product, and sold the product. And we did it all within about 72 hours. And that really garnered a ton of attention within the industry. And it was not the kind of marketing that we were doing. That really started a journey for us. Where, you know, what's interesting, I think, about the whole idea of bravery is that once you lean in, I feel like this is kind of what I was hearing in your story, Tiffany, is that once you've done it once, you reset the water level. You reset a new water level, and you get more and more comfortable leaning into the unknown and to that discomfort. And not only do you as a leader get more comfortable leaning into that discomfort, but your teams get more confident and they feel more empowered. And your partners, your great creative partners and your agency partners, thank you. They bring you better and better work. And so it becomes what I really think of as this virtuous cycle for creating brave and creative work. So for us, that virtuous cycle, which started with this unexpected campaign that we dove headfirst into, so we followed this up really quickly. So basically the whole idea was like, hey, EOS is the secret for how you like shave whatever part, the most sensitive parts of your body, we gotcha. And so we followed this up with the next insight, which was that if you've ever tried to reach those parts of your body, they're actually quite hard to reach, and so it feels like you're doing like gymnastics in the shower. So our next campaign was vaginastics. And then we followed that up with the next campaign, which happened around Earth Day, which, by the way, little known fact, but human hair is a great oil absorbent. And so there's actually a nonprofit out there that takes human hair donations and uses it to sop up oil spills around the world and clean up municipal waterways. So we did a campaign to ask everyone to, this is the one that still gets me a little bit embarrassed to say it. The next campaign was called Pubes for the Planet, and we dared everybody to donate their pubic hair, then we would give them a bottle of EOS lotion, and guess what? They all sold out, all of the donation envelopes, biodegradable envelopes, and then the campaign after that, the one that we just, we actually took a little bit of like a more head-to-toe approach to the latest campaign. It was all about how EOS it makes your skin so soft that soft things want to be near you. And it was about it. Basically, we built an animatronic fox that is wearing a live human as a coat. And so the whole idea was that like soft things think. And these are actual quotes from headlines and articles about the campaign. Icky sexy was like my favorite thing that was said about this campaign. Ludicrous, insane, unhinged. But by the way, these were all very favorable comments. And the whole point was that we would rather be daring and bold and brave and creative than be wallpaper. And that really is the big thing that we were taking away from all of it. We'd love to share a quick spot from the campaign.
Without wearing my human. Humans have always wanted to wear me as a coat. But now that they're using EOS shave cream to get extra soft skin, I thought to myself, what's stopping me from wearing them? That's how I met Margot here.
I'm getting college credit for this.
You are?
Skin so soft, even soft things think you're soft.
That was the campaign.
Nice.
That was called the weirdest ad of the year by one writer. But look, I mean, I think that when I think about where we are as a brand, we are a challenger brand. And sometimes when you're a challenger brand, you are on the outside looking in, and you have no choice but to do things that will get outsized attention. And so if I can't, as a brand, outspend, then I have to outbrave. I have to out-imagine. I have to out-weird my competition. And for us, it's really working. We are now on our third consecutive year of market share growth within this category. And so all of this work is working for us. And especially now, as I think back to this journey that we've been on for 24 months, where each time we reset the water level and we get more and more comfort just kind of leaning in, and the business results keep telling us that this is the right decision. I've been thinking and sitting and wondering why. Like, what is it about like us and our team? And I really think that there's something about this notion of being an outsider that gets you so comfortable with taking those risks. Because when you're not from the establishment, sometimes you don't know the rules, and sometimes you can't follow the rules. And so, I think back to, for those of you who don't like know me or my career, I haven't been a marketer before this job. This is my first time being a marketer. And so for me, I actually don't know what the conventions are. And I use that to my advantage by saying, you know what, sometimes it's great, that fresh perspective is what we all need in order to kind of break out of convention and not do things the way they've always historically been done. And I even think back further than that. And I think back to the fact that I've been an outsider my whole life. I grew up in an immigrant household. I didn't speak English until I went to kindergarten. I grew up in a struggling household. And I really have always been a person who has always had to kind of look from the outside in and try to figure it out. And it does get you comfortable with a certain level of risk. And so I think for me, if I think about what redefining bravery means, to me, similar to what Tiffany's saying about how it's not about being fearless, it's about jumping in despite your fear. And for me, what it means is it's not about being the biggest and having the biggest budget or being the smartest or the person with the most years in the room. It's about sometimes you need a little bit of that outsider perspective. You need a little bit of that unconventional view that gets you comfortable with leaning in, sometimes swallowing the fear and being brave.
Okay, we're going to make the natural transition from pubic hair to geopolitical warfare. This is a story I want to tell, and it's all about bravery. But this helped me understand what it means to go up to a client and try to explain to them that they do need to take the risk, because rather than asking what can go wrong, the question to ask is what can go right in any situation. This is an actual quote we heard from a client we were working for. Do the poster and you might be bombed. The client in this question was based in Pakistan, and the brief that they gave us was to design a protest against what at that time was illegal drone bombing in the north of Pakistan. They said, look, we're looking for somebody to do this for us. Our ambition is to get to Mr. Obama's desk. And we said, okay, what's your budget? And they said, we have about $1,000. So we said, okay, well, that means that you need to do something really, really big. And we came up with an idea. But just to give you a little background, this is what was happening about 9 years ago. And this is the typical face of protests that we see. That's how protests are organized. They, the news covers them, it gets to politicians, and they're usually ignored. So we said, look, we're not going to take this track. We're going to do something completely different. And this is what we wanted to focus on, the fact that there were children who were dying in bombings. There were innocent children, and I think that this was earlier on. I think the total count went above 300 at one point. So we said, okay, this is something that we want to focus on and build on. What we discovered was that the drones were operating under a term called bug splat, which was dehumanizing humans, essentially. When you call humans bugs, you don't tend to think of them as humans, and it's easier to press the button and to drop something on them. And that's what we decided to focus on. So we came up with an idea that I'm going to take you through the case film, and I'm going to talk about where we heard that term come up of, well, you can do the poster. The idea was around just one single poster, but you might be bombed while doing it. And there it is.
Have killed more than 1,000 innocent civilians, including more than 200 children.
I no longer love blue skies. In fact, I now prefer gray skies. The drones do not fly when the skies are gray, and for a short period of time, the mental tension and fear eases.
FFR has been trying to raise awareness of this issue. Operators routinely describe their casualties as bug splats, since humans look like disposable bugs from far above. Most protests in Pakistan go unnoticed globally. So we decided to talk to the drone operators directly.
The new project laid out a giant poster of a young child with the hopes that it will be visible from the sky. The group installed the picture in an unnamed town in a rural Pakistani province close to the northwest border with Afghanistan.
The drone operator will henceforth not see what looks like a bug, but an actual face of a child staring back at them. The installation, part of French artist JR's Inside Out movement, was also designed to be captured by satellites to make it a permanent part of the landscape on mapping sites. All this happened under a simple campaign hashtag.
Not a bug splat. Not a bug splat. Huge poster of a child's face.
It is not an anonymous dot on the landscape, but an actual child's face.
The campaign went viral overnight.
With earned media estimated at over $182 million, the installation put the issue on the world map.
It was brought up by members of the National Assembly of Pakistan and became the poster image for global pressure that helped reduce civilian and children deaths. We had reached and affected our target audience.
The Not a Bug Splat project is something that could have a lot of impact, and that these children deserve a free and happy lifestyle, and we've taken it.
The girl's picture became a powerful message that said, we are humans, not bugs.
So we presented this idea to FFR, and they said, look, this is great. We love the idea. You'd have to go and install it yourself, because we're not going to step into this. Because at that time, when a lot of people used to congregate, that was the time when the drones set out to bomb them. So they said, okay, you can go and install this, but keep in mind that that's the risk you're taking. And the team had this discussion. We said, look, it's a very good question. Is it worth the risk? Again, what can possibly go right is what we decided to ask. And we did go ahead with the risk. We heard lots of stuff about personal safety, we went into the areas that were at that time being bombed. But it gave us this little bit of an insight into when you spark something, and you spark something at that level, the reaction it can have. We were overwhelmed by the way this spread overnight. It just went everywhere. We had calls coming in from every single major news agency. It ended up on Washington Post's front page, Le Monde's front page, New York Times posted on it, so it did end up on Obama's desk. But it had to have that first discussion on what can go right. That's what can go right. That's the picture of the actual installation. But my favorite moment from this that made it all worth it was that when we laid this out and we shot it from a drone and we showed it to the villagers nearby, they were looking at it on a monitor. So when the drone flew over and the face of the girl came up, one of the people in the crowd suddenly shouted, "It's a girl." They had no idea, because when you're on the ground, you couldn't see, the pixels were so large. But when they saw it from above, it was almost like something had been birthed out into the world. But it was a magical moment, and we felt that was really beautiful. And then one of us got a call saying that they'd gotten information that a convoy of the Taliban were on their way, because there were foreigners in the area, and they had heard that there were people from outside. And that's when somebody vomited. So that is...
All comes back to vomit.
Yeah, it always comes back to that. But yeah, we packed up and we left really quickly, but we'd gotten the installation done, we'd gotten the footage done. The poster remained there for a while, after which it was used as roof coverings for villages, which is, in a weird way, it still maintained its presence. That's some of the kids that the villagers turned out and helped us install this, which was pretty amazing to see. I even took a picture of a goat there. But yeah, no, it was beautiful. But when we were there, we completely forgot about this risk that we were taking, and whether there would be drones around or not. Everything became about these people and the project itself. And it was just very liberating to sort of step away from that fear of what could go wrong. That's the girl. The picture was taken by this gentleman called Noor Behram. She's standing outside her house, which was bombed, and those are the pieces of rubble that she had from the house. So we took that picture, we contacted JR in New York, and he loved it. It was the Inside Out movement that he has started, and he said, look, we'll print the poster for you, and they contributed that background image, which really helped it be visible from the sky itself. And that's what it looked like from the drone itself. So this was a pivotal moment for everybody in the team, because after you hear somebody talking about how you could be bombed for doing a poster, when you step into a boardroom and somebody says, this might not meet our Q3 targets, it's just not the same conversation. And everything comes into a different perspective at that point, and you just get into the zone where you want to keep pushing everything you do into a place where it becomes uncomfortable. So again, like I said, what could possibly go right? Currently, we're blessed with a client in Lebanon, a newspaper, which works with that same mentality. They are very courageous in the way they approach stands. And you're absolutely right. They, as a brand, the Lebanese favor them so much because they take stands. They take hard stands. They don't deviate from it. They've lost their journalists to it. Their editor-in-chief was assassinated because of his stand, but they keep going. And that bravery is absolutely contagious. So when we go into a meeting with them and we present an idea to them and they say, that's not scary enough, it's wonderful to hear, because we have to go back and then decide, look, what could possibly be scary to these people? That's Naila Twaini. She's the current editor-in-chief. She's the daughter of Gibran Twaini, who was assassinated. And she's one of the bravest women I've ever met in my life. And she's the one who keeps pushing us to say, look, if you want to do an idea for us, it has to be like earth-shattering. It has to be something that comes from a place of people looking at it and saying, wow, that's really brave. How could they do that? That's her father, Gibran Twaini, who was assassinated. That's his funeral. And this is what we did this year. We printed 7 newspapers inside one newspaper. 6 of them were shut down over the past few years because of various pressures caused by the government. And we said, look, to commemorate the death anniversary of Gibran, we will bring them back, even for a day. We hired the same journalists who had written for those newspapers, and we gave them freedom to write whatever they wanted. And they did, and we printed it. And Naila Twaini printed it, and she said, look, we will go out there. One of the papers that she printed, inside her paper, was, at that time, a completely opposite stance. So imagine, just like you have Democrats and Republicans. It was a completely opposite viewpoint, and they printed it within their paper. They said it's not about the view, it's about the fact that people should be able to say whatever they want. And that's bravery. I think that conviction to say, we're going to do it from the heart, we're going to ask what can possibly go right, and that's where they ended up. And that's a quote I wanted to end with. It's time to put an end to our fear. That's Gibran Tweeny. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ali. Perfect summary.